Not every mixed signal is harmless. Not every kind act is actually kind at its core. And not every argument is just a misunderstanding. Sometimes, what looks like care, charm, concern, or conflict is really a way to pull you off balance. A way to make you question your own memory. A way to make you feel guilty for having limits. A way to keep you chasing approval instead of trusting what you already noticed. That is what manipulation often does. It does not always look dramatic. It does not always look like shouting, threats, or obvious control. Sometimes it looks like affection. Sometimes it looks like sadness. Sometimes it looks like someone just needing space. Sometimes it looks like a person saying, "I'm only trying to help." And that is why it can be so confusing. Because when someone is openly cruel, it is easier to name. But when someone is charming one day, cold the next, apologetic in the morning, and blaming you by night, you can start to feel like you are the problem. So in this video, we are going to look at common manipulation tactics in a simple, clear way. Gaslighting, love bombing, guilt tripping, triangulation, the silent treatment, breadcrumbing, white knight behavior, and DARVO. The goal is not to diagnose everyone around you. The goal is not to become suspicious of every mistake, every awkward moment, or every emotional reaction. The goal is to notice patterns. Because one bad day is human. A repeated pattern that makes you doubt yourself, shrink yourself, or abandon your limits is something to pay attention to. Let's start with gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone tries to make you doubt your own memory, perception, or sense of reality. It can sound like, "That never happened. You're too sensitive. You always imagine things. I never said that. You're making a big deal out of nothing." Now, sometimes people genuinely remember things differently. That happens. Memory is not perfect. But gaslighting is different because the pattern is not about finding the truth. The pattern is about making you distrust yourself. For example, you bring up something hurtful they said. Instead of listening, they say, "Wow, you really twist everything. I can't talk to you when you're like this." Now the focus moves away from what they said and onto whether your reaction is valid. If this happens often enough, you may start keeping screenshots, replaying conversations, asking friends if you are overreacting, or apologizing before you even explain what hurt you. That is a sign something is off. A calm response to gaslighting is to avoid getting trapped in a debate about your sanity. You can say, "I remember it differently," or "I'm not asking you to agree with my feelings. I'm telling you how it affected me." Or, "We don't have to debate my memory. I'm setting a limit based on what I experienced." The key is not to fight for hours trying to prove that your reality is real. State what you know. Stay grounded. And, when possible, keep records of important conversations, especially at work or in serious relationships. Next is love bombing. Love bombing is intense affection, praise, attention, or promises that come very early or very fast, often before real trust has had time to grow. At first, it can feel amazing. Someone says, "You are different from everyone else." They want to spend all their time with you. They talk about the future right away. They give big gifts. They text constantly. They make you feel chosen. And sometimes, intense affection is just excitement. But love bombing becomes manipulative when the affection is used to create fast attachment, lower your boundaries, or make you feel guilty for slowing things down. For example, you say, "I want to take this slowly." They respond, "I guess you don't feel what I feel." Or, "After everything I've done for you, you still don't trust me?" Or, "I've never opened up like this before. Don't hurt me." Now their affection becomes pressure. The message is, "If you accept my love, you owe me access." That is not love. That is control wearing a romantic costume. A calm response is, "I appreciate your feelings, but I still need time." Or, "I'm not comfortable moving that fast." Or, "A strong connection should be able to respect a slower pace." Healthy affection does not punish you for having boundaries. Someone who truly cares about you can handle the word slow. Next is guilt tripping. Guilt tripping is when someone tries to make you feel selfish, cruel, or ungrateful for not doing what they want. It can sound like, "After all I've done for you, I guess I'm just not important to you. Don't worry, I'll just handle it alone like always." Wow, Must be nice to only think about yourself. Guilt tripping works because most people do not want to hurt others. So when someone frames your boundary as harm, you may rush to fix their feelings. You say no to helping someone on your only free day. They sigh and say, "It's fine. I'm used to people letting me down." Now you feel guilty, even if your boundary was reasonable. The response is to separate their disappointment from your responsibility. You can care that someone is upset without changing your answer. Try saying, "I understand you're disappointed, but I'm still not available." Or, "I care about you, and my answer is still no." Or, "I'm not able to do that. I hope you find another option." Notice that these responses do not over-explain. Over-explaining can become a trap, because the other person may treat every reason as something to argue with. Sometimes the most powerful sentence is simple: "I can't do that." Next is triangulation. Triangulation is when someone pulls a third person into a situation to create pressure, jealousy, competition, or confusion. It can show up in relationships, families, friendships, and workplaces. A partner says, "My ex never had a problem with this." A friend says, "Everyone agrees you are being dramatic." A coworker says, "Well, Sarah thinks your idea is unrealistic too." A parent says, "Your brother understands me. Why can't you?" The tactic works because now you are not just dealing with one person's opinion. You feel outnumbered. You feel compared. You may start defending yourself against people who are not even in the room. Sometimes third-party input is useful, but triangulation is different because it is used to control the conversation instead of clarify it. A calm response is to bring the focus back to the person in front of you. You can say, "I'm not going to discuss what other people supposedly think. What do you think?" Or, "If Sarah has concerns, I'm open to hearing them from Sarah." Or, "Please don't compare me to your ex. Let's talk about this relationship." This keeps the conversation direct. Healthy communication does not need invisible witnesses. Next is the silent treatment. The silent treatment is not the same as taking space to cool down. Taking space sounds like, "I'm overwhelmed. I need an hour and then I'll come back to this." That is clear. That is respectful. That has a return point. The silent treatment is different. It is withdrawal used as punishment. Someone ignores your messages. They refuse to answer basic questions. They act cold, but deny anything is wrong. They make you chase them, apologize, or beg just to restore normal connection. This is powerful, because humans are wired to seek repair. When someone suddenly removes warmth or communication, you may panic and start offering anything to make the tension stop. You might say sorry even when you don't know what you did. You might drop your boundary. You might accept blame just to get them to talk again. A calm response is to name the behavior and refuse the chase. You can say, "I'm willing to talk when you're ready to communicate respectfully." Or, "I'm going to give you space, but I'm not going to guess what I did wrong." Or, "If you need time, please say that clearly. Ignoring me is not okay." Then step back. Do not send 10 messages trying to unlock the conversation. If someone uses silence to control you, chasing often rewards the tactic. Next is breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing is when someone gives you just enough attention, hope, affection, or possibility to keep you attached, but not enough consistency to create a real connection. It can look like random late-night texts, occasional compliments, vague future plans, a little warmth after long distance, a message right when you start moving on. They do not fully show up, but they also do not fully let you go. Breadcrumbing keeps you waiting. You may find yourself thinking, "Maybe they're just busy. Maybe this means they still care. Maybe if I'm patient, it will become something real." And maybe someone really is busy. Maybe life is complicated. But the pattern matters. Are their words matched by action? Do they make clear plans? Do they respect your time? Do you feel secure? Or do you feel like you are surviving on tiny signals? A calm response to breadcrumbing is to ask for clarity and watch behavior. You can say, "I'm interested in consistent communication, not occasional check-ins." Or, "I like talking to you, but I'm not available for something vague." Or, "If you want to make plans, let's make them. If not, I'm going to step back." This is not about demanding constant attention. It is about refusing to build a relationship out of crumbs. Next is white knight behavior. White knight behavior is when someone presents themselves as your rescuer, protector, or special helper, but underneath it, they may be creating dependency, control, or obligation. At first, it can feel comforting. They step in when you are struggling. They defend you. They solve problems. They say, "I'm the only one who really understands you." But then the help starts to come with strings. They may act hurt when you make your own choices. They may discourage other support. They may say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" They may subtly make you feel incapable without them. The message becomes, "I saved you, so now you owe me." Real support makes you stronger. Manipulative rescue makes you smaller. A calm response is to appreciate help without giving away control. You can say, "Thank you for helping, but I need to make this decision myself." Or, "I appreciate your concern, but I don't want you speaking for me." Or, "Support is helpful when it respects my independence." Pay attention to how someone reacts when you become more confident. A healthy supporter is glad when you stand on your own. A manipulative rescuer may feel threatened by it. Now let's talk about DARVO. DARVO stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. It is a pattern that can happen when someone is confronted about harmful behavior. First, they deny. "I didn't do that." Then they attack. "You're crazy for accusing me." Then they reverse the roles. "I can't believe you would treat me this way. You're the one hurting me." Suddenly, the person who raised the concern is now defending themselves. For example, you say, "It hurt me when you mocked me in front of everyone." They say, "I didn't mock you. You're just insecure. Honestly, it's exhausting how you always make me the bad guy." Now the original issue disappears. You are no longer talking about the mocking. You are talking about whether you're insecure, unfair, exhausting. DARVO is confusing because it can trigger your empathy. You may start comforting the person who hurt you. A calm response is to return to the original point. You can say, "We can talk about your feelings too, but I'm not moving away from what I brought up. I'm not willing to be insulted for raising a concern." Or, "This conversation started because of a specific behavior. Let's stay with that." If they keep attacking, you can end the conversation. "I'm going to pause this now. We can continue when we can both speak respectfully." You do not have to stay in a conversation that keeps turning your concern into your crime. Now, let's bring these tactics into daily life. Imagine someone says, "I guess I just care more than you do." That could be guilt tripping. Instead of rushing to prove you care, you can say, "I do care. I'm still not able to do what you're asking." Imagine someone says, "Everyone thinks you're overreacting." That could be triangulation. You can say, "I'm not discussing unnamed people. I'm talking to you about what happened." Imagine someone floods you with affection after crossing a line. They send long messages, gifts, apologies, promises, and intense declarations. That could be love bombing after harm. You can say, "I'm not ready to move past this because of kind words. I need to see consistent change." Imagine someone ignores you for 2 days, then returns like nothing happened. That could be the silent treatment. You can say, "I'm not okay pretending nothing happened. If you need space, say that. Disappearing is not okay with me." The pattern in all these responses is simple. You do not have to match the drama. You do not have to insult them. You do not have to prove everything perfectly. You stay grounded. You name what you will and will not do. One of the hardest parts of manipulation is that it often makes you feel like you need a perfect case before you are allowed to act. You think, "What if I'm wrong? What if they didn't mean it? What if I'm being too harsh? What if I'm the manipulative one?" These are important questions if you are reflecting honestly. But you do not need to prove someone is a terrible person before you set a boundary. You can set a boundary because something does not feel healthy. You can step back because a pattern leaves you anxious. You can say no because the request does not work for you. You can ask for clarity because confusion has become too expensive. A boundary is not a punishment. A boundary is information. It says, "This is what I can participate in, and this is what I cannot." For example, "I'm happy to talk, but not if I'm being insulted. I can support you, but I can't be your only support. I'm open to feedback, but not comparisons. I need consistent communication if this relationship is going to continue. I'm not going to keep explaining a no. These sentences are calm, but they are strong. And strength matters because manipulation often feeds on uncertainty. When you are unsure, you over-explain. When you over-explain, the other person gets more material to twist. So sometimes the best response is not a longer argument. It is a shorter sentence. No, that doesn't work for me. I remember it differently. I'm not discussing this while you're insulting me. I need time to think. I'm stepping away from this conversation. Then follow through, because a boundary without follow-through becomes a suggestion. Now a quick reminder. People can do unhealthy things without being evil. People can guilt trip because they are scared. They can go silent because they never learned how to handle conflict. They can become defensive because shame feels unbearable. That may explain the behavior. It does not excuse the behavior. You can have compassion for someone and still protect yourself from the pattern. You can understand why someone acts that way and still decide not to keep participating. The goal is not to label every difficult person as manipulative. The goal is to ask, is this conversation helping us understand each other, or is it making me doubt myself? Do I feel free to say no? Are my concerns addressed, or are they always turned back on me? Does this person respect my limits when they do not get what they want? Those questions will tell you a lot. Because healthy relationships can handle clarity. Healthy relationships can handle a pause. Healthy relationships can handle a boundary. They may not always be perfect. There may be conflict, disappointment, and repair. But you should not have to abandon your own reality to keep the peace. So the next time you feel confused after a conversation, pause before you blame yourself. Ask, was I being heard or managed? Was this kindness or was it pressure? Was this apology followed by change or just another reset? Do I feel calmer after this connection or smaller? Your body often notices patterns before your mind has words for them. Listen to that signal. Write things down if you need to. Talk to someone grounded and trustworthy. And when a pattern keeps repeating, respond to the pattern, not just the latest excuse. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to become suspicious of everyone. You just need to become less available for confusion that costs you your peace. Manipulation loses power when you stop rushing, stop chasing, and stop arguing against your own instincts. You can be kind and still be clear. You can care and still say no. You can listen and still leave. And sometimes the strongest response is not convincing someone to understand you. It is deciding that your reality does not need their permission.